Hello everyone. Today we'll start studying Sriram's IAS Economy 2022 Part 1. So if you want to join me in this venture, hop on. So we are going to start with Sriram's IAS General Studies for Indian Economy, and we'll start with the chapter 1, Economy and Economics. Let's go. Chapter 1, Introduction. Economy is the social activity where people come together to produce, stock, distribute, trade, and facilitate consumption of goods and services. The entire activity is meant for the market, that is, for buying and selling. So, in this introduction, the main focus, you can skip everything else. If you have a okay command over economics, you have to note two, three basic things. First, what barter system is. Barter system is very easy. In primitive times, we didn't have any money. So, what did we do? We used to exchange goods for goods. So, if you have wheat, say you have 1 kg wheat, but you want 1 kg rice. So, what you'll do, you'll give 1 kg wheat to a person who needs 1 kg wheat and is ready to give you 1 kg of rice. So, this exchange of goods for goods was known as barter system. As you can see, it's a tedious system because you need to find the person who needs the exact amount of the exact good which you have and can give you the exact quantity of exact good which you need. It was a complicated system. That's the reason why money was introduced in the economy, in the system. So barter is a practice of primitive economics. Now that much is clear. If that much is clear to you, we can go on. Now, economic growth is of two types. Actually, economic growth is only of one type. What is economic growth? It is the difference in the production of goods and services between 2 points of time. So, if it is positive, we call it economic growth. If it is negative, we call it degrowth. That's it? Okay. So, that was economic growth. But we have another concept coming up, which is economic development. Economic development is nothing but a broader concept of economic growth. In economic growth, we used to find the quantitative value, while in economic development, we find the qualitative value as well. So you can say economic development equals to economic growth plus the qualitative values, such as you can think of any number of things, but there are actually three, that is per capita income, health, and education. So, equity also, you can say that in economic growth we have covered up PCI, per capita income. So, in the qualitative department, you can say equity and any number of such stuff. You'll call it etc. Okay. So, economic policy is a government or non governmental policy aimed at generating growth and development among other aims. So, economic policy has many subsets. If a government is going to plan an economic policy, they include many things in it. They also are of many types. We say it is of two types, quantitative and qualitative. In quantitative, we have all the rates, monetary policy, repo rate, fiscal policy, monetary policy. It will come under quantitative. While in qualitative, we'll have other stuff such as moral suasion and other things. Okay. So, okay, economics is a discipline. Now, what does economics as a discipline entertain? If you have to understand the main concept of economics, that is scarcity. Scarcity Scarcity is the basis of economics. When there is scarcity, there is demand, and when there is demand, there is supply. So, there are three kinds of economics, you can say. Actually, there are only two kinds of economics. There is microeconomics and there's macroeconomics. Microeconomics is basically the economics on a smaller scale, like that of a firm or an individual. While macroeconomics can be of a country, a nation, a state, or the whole world. And another key term in economics is rationality. These are also the basis of economics. Rationality, we assume that the consumer is going to be a rational consumer who will decide in a rational approach. Yeah. So, what is rationality? It is choosing the right means for the given end. That means if you want 10 kgs of something, let's say 10 kgs of rice, and that is 10 rupees per kg, that will give you 100 rupees. So you won't be willing to pay 150 rupees for the same amount of rice which you can get for 100 rupees. That is rationality. Okay, so you won't be overpaying. That's what rationality is. Okay, so since last century, economic rationality, which started with the study of production, distribution, and consumption, has come to include equity and sustainability as well. We have broadened the term of rationality. Earlier, it used to have the study of production, distribution, and consumption. Now, it also includes equity and sustainability. What does this tell us? This tells us that we have become more liberal in our approach. That means we just don't want wealth to be concentrated, but we want wealth to be equitably distributed. Moving on. Now, on the basis of scarcity, you can understand that India has 15% of the population but only 2.4% of global land, which means it creates huge pressure on land. We have more mouths to feed but less land to grow on it. In that sense, we had Land Acquisition and Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act of the 2013, which addressed the land claims of farmers, industry, and other sections in a balanced manner. Similarly, water scarcity is another major element coming into foreplay. Water scarcity is going to be huge, especially in the southern states. We know that. Northern and western and southern states. That is because the demand for water for industrial, agriculture, domestic, and other uses has increased multiple times. Now, in that regard, we have Draft National Water Policy NWP 2012. Same purposes for food security law. Being a welfare state, government is committed to it, but there are various challenges. Beside the extent of food subsidy is also a critical matter as it impinges on government finances and influences the market prices. Economics as a field of study draws from experience within the country and from other countries and advises on such public policy dilemmas. It says that economics is a study of experiences. We don't know what's going to come, but we can counter it by looking at the history that this recession or this inflation happened somewhere in the past and this is how we tackled it. So let's do the same or probably use some other measure. Let's see what gives us results because we never know what will give us results. So it's a study which draws heavily from experiences from the country and from other countries and advises on such public policy dilemmas. That's what it means. Now, economics focuses on wealth, that is, creation of wealth at any cost. So, the human dimension thing was not really into picture until recent times. Now we do cater to the inequality thing. We want wealth to be distributed, and for that purpose, we have Kuznets curve. What does Kuznets curve shows us? It shows us that with increase in income, inequality increases, but only up to a certain point. That is when we reach the peak of inequality. After that, if we increase income per capita, inequality will go on decreasing because wealth will go on redistributing itself. This is what we call Kuznets curve. You have to be really advanced for you to have less inequality. Because then the definition of poor for your nation will change, right? The poor in USA and the poor in India are different beings altogether. In USA, the poor is who doesn't have a car, who doesn't have a house, permanent residence. While in India is someone who doesn't have 2 meals per day. There's a huge difference between the poor and on these two countries. Definition of poor changes. Why? Because of Kuznets curve. Moving on, Kuznets curve show in the form of an inverted U the initial increase in inequality and how inequality reduces with economic growth in industrial democracies. Now, trade offs. In the study of government policies from the perspective of economics, there are trade offs because scarcity of resources is the basic assumption of discipline. Trade offs involve making choices in policies wherein there is a compromise on one goal to achieve another goal. So, what is trade off? RBI is, let's say, RBI is trading off. Let's say there's an inflation. There's inflation in the economy. Now, what will RBI do to counter it? RBI will reduce money supply? Yes. But in that reduction, people will have less money to spend. Loans will become dearer. Yes. That is the trade off. You're trading off price reduction with increase in rate of interest. That's a trade off. Now, public investment is crucial and so is the limit to government borrowings. Government has two options, either to spend or not to spend, right? If we spend, we'll be doing public investment, but where will we get the money? We'll have to take money from loans. If we don't spend, we'll have no loans, but then we'll have no public investment. So that's a trade off we have to make. Fiscal responsibility and the Budget Management FRBM Act laid down 3% of annual central government borrowings. So FRBM Act allows 3% of government borrowings. Beyond this, they say government to start being cautious. Now, opportunity cost. You have to understand what opportunity cost is before proceeding. Opportunity cost is nothing but the cost of the next best thing. So, what is the next best thing? Suppose there are apples of 30 rupees and there are oranges of 25 rupees. You have 50 rupees. And there are grapes, let's say for 20 rupees. Now, if you buy apples for 30 rupees, your opportunity cost is 25 rupees because that's the next best thing. But if you buy oranges, the opportunity cost would be 20 rupees, which you could have spent to buy grapes. So the next best thing, the cost of next best thing is the opportunity cost. Now, moving on, money. Money, you can use it in two ways. It can either be deposited in the banks where you can earn interest, or you can invest it in stock market. You have to realize where you have to invest, either in the bank or in the stock market. If you're investing it in the stock market and the stock's rate goes down, your opportunity cost will be really high because banks give you a fixed interest. While if you say invest it in banks and the stocks do really well, you'll be in pain to know that you could have invested in stock and would have gained so much money. So money, either in banks or in stocks, this is variable, this is fixed. If it does well, good. If it doesn't do well, people shift. Another example is opportunity cost of government expenditures on health is what it could not spend on education or roads and yield the missed in process. Now, micro, macro, and mesoeconomics. Macroeconomics deals with the entire economy of a given unit, province, nation, or the world itself. We have already covered it. While microeconomics, on the other hand, studies the units of the economy and behavior of consumers, sellers, business firms, etc. The two belong in the same economic system and influence each other. You have to realize that micro and macroeconomics are not absolute in, in their own respective zones, rather, they interconnect. They interconnect in a way because individual buyer or individual firm is a part of a much larger economy, and that is macroeconomy. Different individual firms make up macroeconomy. So it's a part and always affect each other. Taxes will influence prices and thus consumption and investment decisions. Consumer and business confidence depends on the state of the economy. Consumer confidence or sentiment is the optimism of the consumer about the economy and their financial position. If they are confident, they'll buy more. If they are not, they won't. If they do buy more, there'll be economic growth. If they don't, there won't be. Similarly, business confidence will help boost up supply. If they don't have confidence, stocks will plummet down. Hence, micro and macro factors feed into each other. What they do? Macro and micro factors feed into each other. Whereas mesoeconomy deals with the intermediate level of economic organization in between micro and macroeconomics, like the study of sector economy. For example, auto, infrastructure may be considered mesoeconomics, while the study of each unit may fall into micro. Hmm? Intermediate level, that is one complete sector, that is mesoeconomics. In between macro and micro. So there are many school of thoughts and approaches in the discipline of economics based on the relation between state and markets. So, I'm sorry. Of late, concerns related sustainability, welfare, and behavior are also emerging at the centers of theory. As mentioned above, the study of economic activity, called the discipline of economics, began with a focus on growth, which may also be understood as wealth generation. Adam Smith, Adam Smith, which is regarded Adam Smith, which is regarded as the father of economics. I'm so sorry. Regarded as the father of economics and author of the classic, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nations, or you can easily say Wealth of Nations. It was written by Adam Smith. Defined economics in two ways. One, science relating to the laws of production, distribution, and exchange. And the second, the science of wealth. Now, political economy. We need to understand the approach to study economic activity. It is the school of political economy. Its position is that politics and economics need to be studied together to understand why public policy takes a particular direction. For example, land reforms are a political decision for redistributive justice, but its impact is on economic productivity, investment in agriculture, agri exports, employments, and so on. To understand land reforms, we need to understand the politics of social economic justice. Similarly, bank nationalization had cost and benefit. To see why the policy was adopted in 1960 and 1980, checking concentration, planned economic development need to be grasped. The two cannot be separated. Equally, the entire economic model based on liberalization, privatization, and globalization that became the global norms in the 1980s can be understood partly from the political perspective of the retreat and demise of communism as a political idea. The deglobalization that started some years after the 2008 global finance and economic crisis that is reflected in protectionism and trade wars can be understood only as a subject of political economy. Economic consequences of US China trade tensions are predominantly driven by political preferences of US leadership since 2016. It aims at addressing the anxieties of those who lost in the globalization process, like workers. Thus, it is a political response to popular demands expressed in economic policies. If we take the example of demonetization that took place in India in 2016, the entire process of choosing to embark on it was a political choice aimed at eliminating black economy and enforcing fiscal laws strictly. While the economy went through so many functional fundamental effects of it in banking, fiscal, industrial, agricultural sectors and the likes. In China, the political party Communist Party of China decides how the economy is to be structured. The priorities and policies of economy drastically altered according to the beliefs and biases of the political party and its leaders. Politics sets the larger framework in which economy operates. Thus, understanding the two as they interconnect is the substance of political economy studies. While the politics sets the values, economists set the prices. So that's the quote we'll be using. While politics sets the values, economists sets the prices. We'll do the rest in another class. Thank you so much for patiently being with me. We'll complete. Sriram Economics, Sriram IAS Economic Booklet in 10 days' time. That's the target I'm giving myself and to all of you. So, if you want to continue with me on this journey, please do stick ahead, stick with us. If not, you can go ahead and download the PDF from the internet and read it on your own. Thank you so much.